So I think that it's always a tough job trying to deal with LeBron James and both his political views and his career arc. Because to tell you the truth, I come from Ohio, and I know I'm not really an NBA fan anymore. I haven't really followed the league for a while, except for sometimes I'll watch the playoff games. But it's undeniable that in this state, in Ohio, LeBron James is the person who put the Cleveland Cavaliers on the map. Before him, the closest superstar to playing here was probably Sean Kemp, who was past his prime when he got here. And LeBron James, I remember in high school, was pretty much already pegged to be the next Jordan. I remember because I went to high school. I was probably 2 years behind him in high school, and we were already hearing about him when he went to St. Vincent St. Mary's, which is a Catholic school over in Akron. So when I hear all of this talk from LeBron James about how America is racially unequal and everything is slanted against the people who slanted. Sorry, no disrespect to certain communities, but it's slanted against certain people and everything. I have to call bullshit because the truth is that LeBron James it has been blessed by opportunities that not only go far beyond those of the people from Akron where he comes from, but probably beyond the people all from his entire state. The people in Ohio, a lot of people dream of getting a job somewhere with better weather, better, I guess you could say, culture. And, there's some people who just discover, well, it's this is the only place I know how to live, and this is the only type of people that I want to be around. So I think that what LeBron James does when he says that NFL owners are old white men and slave masters, I think that there certainly are people here that might agree with him. However, you have to remember that this is a person who has, over his career, basically become just an elitist piece of crap. LeBron. I'm a Dallas Cowboys fan. LeBron James. I think he's been on the sidelines several times for Dallas Cowboys games. Uh, so you can see even here, he was talking to Jason Garrett on the sidelines. This was several years ago. I think it was like 2011. And you can see him all the time here. I think this is with Denzel Washington. Actually, no, that's just Denzel and Ezekiel Elliott. So, but yeah, he definitely is somebody who he's benefited from his star power. Just like, I mean, by the way, Russell Westbrook, also a huge Cowboys fan. He gets to go, but Russell Westbrook, the difference between him and Russell Westbrook, besides all the career accomplishments, besides LeBron James' difference in image, because he's still considered, they call him King James, is that Russell Westbrook does not film commercials where he pontificates about all sorts of social commentary and stuff like that. LeBron James has basically set himself up to be a political commentator, despite the fact that he's never actually shown that he has any real proposals on any topic whatsoever. It doesn't matter what it is. Now, I do remember that he did speak out a lot about violence in certain communities, especially the black community, violence, police violence as well. And he has a right to, and I don't begrudge LeBron James the right. But in the midst of this, so this is from Deadline, and they talk about his quote, and I'm going to play the audio from something. I don't want to play the video because I think HBO might give me a copyright strike, but I'm going to try to play the audio at least. But this is what everybody was talking about. It says in the NFL they got a bunch of old white men owning teams, and they got that slave mentality, James said in a conversation. And it's like, this is my team. You do what the fuck I tell y'all to do, or we get rid of y'all. So, yeah, for the most part in the NFL, it is white owners. Apart from, I believe the owner of Jacksonville is Pakistani, if I'm not mistaken. James then said it was the players who made the league, not the league making the players. The players are who make the ship go. James said every Sunday without Todd Gurley and without Odell Beckham Jr., without those players, those guys, there is no football, and it's the same in the NBA. The NBA cares more about players, James contended. What we believe a player can be, the potential. In the NFL, it's what you can do what can you do for me this Sunday or this Monday or this Thursday, and if you ain't, we moving on. So that's not true. That's not true, because the fact is that in many of these NBA teams, there's guys who simply they get a few games and then they're out of there. There is a minor league in the NBA. I'm not a big fan of the NBA anymore. But I'll tell you another difference between the NBA and the NFL that LeBron James neglects. The fact is that he and people like him, the current crop of superstars, ruined the NBA by making it more about this brotherhood of superstars who all hang out together. They basically eat out together, hang out during the off season, work out during the off season, and then they go play for their teams. But they're essentially friends off the court, and they hang out together. I don't believe anything that they do on the court really promotes good competition. In fact, the NBA regular season, I've done videos on this. There's a good channel. The guy is kind of like weird, but Chronicles of Judah he discusses the real pitfalls of the political grandstanding in sports, especially in the NBA and the WNBA. Basketball, I would say, is his main focus, and saying how it actually is masking real problems in the black community, which he comes from. So I want to play this clip, which I think people are forgetting, that did not make as much of a stir, and I'll see. This I think is something that went under the radar.
It happens every single day. People steal our style, they steal our culture, they steal our words, they steal how we dress, how we feel, what we drink, what we eat, everything. And we can't allow that to be a point where it's like, oh man, we ain't getting the credit. It's almost like you gotta be like, oh shit, we gotta do it even harder.
Exactly.
Like everything that we do, we move the needle. That's right. And we gotta continue to do that.
People love the culture from black people, and then when they see black people go through the...
So basically what Nas and LeBron James were talking about is that, black culture does not really, it gets adopted by the general population, but black people don't necessarily benefit from it, or even the performers themselves. And I think that what they're trying to do is ignore about 60 to 70 years of progress. So beginning in the 1970s, or the 1950s, sorry, let's start there. Rock music starts to become a big deal, but the black people, the black performers that were instrumental at its outset, like Little Richard, like Chuck Berry, even Ike Turner, they didn't necessarily get the credit, the songwriting credit, or anything. They were basically shut out. Okay, so that was a huge problem. But as the decades went on, there was Motown Records, Berry Gordy. He was able to break out into the industry and have these people, he was basically pressing records for them, and that was a huge success. And through the pioneering efforts of people like that, entrepreneurs in black music and culture, Black America is now, or at least black performance, black musicians have more power than they used to. Okay, it's kind of, I think it did peak a few years ago, because nowadays performers in general aren't as powerful as they used to be due to the fact that, there's a lot of pirating of music, and it's more based on earnings from live performances than necessarily based on, the selling records. But in general, I would say that people who are black performers, rappers, R&B musicians, remember, back in the 50s, it was unthinkable that there could be a black person who was a successful country musician. Nowadays, you do have Darius Rucker, who used to be rock singer for Hootie and the Blowfish. So I would say that what they're trying to do is basically create this cultural schism based on race in America, and which does exist. It's not that they're creating it from scratch, but they're trying to say, well, now that people are following our music, now that people are buying into our arts and culture, well, we're basically not getting the credit for it. How could that even be? That's one of the most ridiculous things you could ever say, because people love black performers. In some cases, people resent the fact that black performers are taken more seriously than black intellectuals. A lot of people say, we were talking a few weeks ago, not to, raise this issue again because we've talked about it enough, but Mark Lamont Hill, one of the comments that I think was so retarded on his part was when he claimed that people like Ray Lewis and Jim Brown and Steve Harvey were not qualified to meet with President Trump. That in reality, he should have been inviting people like Michael Eric Dyson and Cornel West, because the other people were mediocre N-words. I can't even say the word. So I think that this is a disgrace. I think that LeBron James he long ago proved that he doesn't have the sense to really represent a social vision. Okay, what do I mean by a social vision? There were people who, in the past, in different eras in America, were able to, by simple actions, change the way the world thought about them and their communities. So in the 40s, Jackie Robinson broke the color barrier in baseball simply by playing a game, and simply by he weathered a lot of hate and abuse. And I think that's why Jackie Robinson is to this day, I think he's probably one of the most important athletes in American history. Him, of course, there's Muhammad Ali. You could probably make the case that, Roberto Clemente in the 70s. Those are Fernando Valenzuela. Okay, the guy couldn't speak English. I mean, think about that. And he was a star pitcher for the Dodgers. So these are important milestones in American history, gained through sports, and that's how you change the culture. LeBron James is trying to change the world by doing things people have already done. So to set the scene, I mean, the show that he's talking about is called The Shop. I'm not going to show it on screen because I think there might be there might be a copyright strike. But it's him and a bunch of other black people who are sitting in a barber shop on chairs somewhere in LA. Can you get any more fake than that? You have people that have been industry insiders for years. They're not people getting in on the ground level. They live in Los Angeles, and they've basically taken the culture of their upbringing and elevated it to a higher social stratus. So then why should we care? Okay, good. Enjoy yourself. Have fun. There's no problem with LeBron James, expressing himself publicly. But when he starts to say that he is basically some sort of social change figure, I don't think it's true. I think that many people, by the way, the Shop, who made The Shop a big thing? It wasn't LeBron James. It wasn't him at all. It was Ice Cube. Everybody knows that Ice Cube made the Barbershop movie. Okay, so why is it that LeBron James is now going to use this whole meme of the barbershop and whatever? It's like he can't decide what's the real problem. Is the problem stereotyping of black Americans? Is the problem that they don't get enough credit for their own culture? Is the problem that they're getting mistreated by their employers? Okay, and speaking of which, LeBron James in the NBA is well known as somebody who is just prima donna. I remember when he was here the first time, I believe he got a couple of his coaches fired. We have Paul Silas fired. Brendan Malone was, I think, an interim coach. Mike Brown also fired after LeBron left. Byron Scott was in between, so that wasn't during the LeBron era. Then you had Mike Brown again. I don't know how he got back here. Um, then you got David Blatt, who gets to the Eastern Conference he gets to the NBA championship with LeBron, and then in the middle of a season where he had the best record in the East, he gets fired, replaced by LeBron's buddy Tyronn Lue, who he wins the championship with. Tyronn Lue continues as the coach. They lose 2 more finals, okay? And he gets fired once LeBron James leaves. So LeBron James basically is the puppet master. So who's really the slave in the NBA? It's anybody who's the coach of LeBron James. You're basically his bitch. What the fuck is he talking about? And I have here, this is Memphis is David Fizdale. Hence why. So David Fizdale was apparently he was an assistant coach under Eric Spoelstra, who was LeBron. I keep saying John LeMains, but it's LeBron James. So David Fizdale was one of his assistant coaches over in Miami when Eric Spoelstra was the head coach. And it says the possibilities for LeBron James post-basketball life seem endless. At 31 and with seemingly, so this is written in 2016, with seemingly plenty of golden years atop the NBA, the Cavs superstar is already the 39th richest entrepreneur with a net worth of $275 million, according to Forbes magazine. But a former coach of James knows there's one possibility he probably won't or shouldn't do upon retiring whenever that day comes. James isn't a coach. He would kill somebody, said David Fizdale, coach of the Memphis Grizzlies. Perfection is like his standard. He wants perfection. I couldn't see him actually owning his own team and doing something like that, but I think he would end up killing a player at some point because they wouldn't live up to the expectations that he would set forth. We're at intermission of this 2-game series between the Cavs and Grizzlies. Cleveland beat Memphis, so that's not important. So James and Fizdale are open admirers of each other, having worked together for 4 years when James led the Miami Heat to finals trips every season and 2 titles, and Fizdale was an assistant coach under Eric Spoelstra. So, first of all, so David Fizdale, he is a black guy, okay, if that even matters. And I would say that this is entirely consistent with the way I look at LeBron James. He is somebody who is so successful, so naturally gifted, that he can't relate to the average person. But in his, when he tries to do that, he attempts to go and project all of society's ills on people that he has a problem with. Now, NBA owners, I'm not laying them off. I don't like the NBA. I don't like the owners. I don't like the owner of the team in my city. I don't even like I don't like the NBA that much. So I'm not going to go to games. No offense to the Cavs fans out there. I think the Cavs are about the same as any other team. But the fact is that I don't believe in publicly subsidized sports. I think that we should stop funding stadiums and arenas for these sports teams. And the fact is, who's the real slave here? I would say it's the people that have to play with and coach LeBron James. Okay, the guy is just incorrigible. Okay, now I give him the credit he's due. He's probably one of the best basketball players of all time. Some say he is the best, but he is no Michael Jordan. It's not just an issue of natural ability and accomplishment. Michael Jordan knew how to show to the world really the competitive spirit, and really nobody would ever argue anything concerning his character would ever tinge his accomplishments, okay? Because that was really about that's the type of person that he was. He was a net competitor. It was all about winning all the time, and people do respect that. Is it one-dimensional? Absolutely. But that's what makes you an icon in athletics. With LeBron James, he wants to be the Michael Jordan and he wants to be the Jackie Robinson. It's 2 different things. You can't be both of them and then expect people to look at you with the equal amount of respect on both ends. Jackie Robinson broke into baseball in an era when people had no tolerance for blacks in their daily life. There were sundown communities. I believe they're called, where you couldn't be black outside at after sundown, or the cops would come pull you over. Okay, that was the world that Jackie Robinson had to play baseball in. And Michael Jordan, he was the person who made his face and his likeness and the silhouette of his body into the symbol of athletics worldwide with the Air Jordan brand. So, the LA Lakers, they're third place in the Western Conference, and there's all these rumblings that LeBron James is going to need a lot of help in order for the team to actually compete in the postseason and everything. You can see the Clippers are actually tied with them, and people are saying, well, they're going to trade for Anthony Davis and everything. Well then, so LeBron James is this superstar that we're all supposed to look at as this great paragon of the social, the social conscience of America, and yet he needs some guy like Anthony Davis in order to just make him competitive with the other two teams in his division, let alone the NBA in general. I think that's not very Jordan-like. And that's about it. So please like this video, subscribe to the channel, subscribe to my other social media. There's also CocoScope and BitChute if you want to see my videos there. And also, please like me on Minds, Gab, as well as all the other social media below. I'll talk to you guys later, and have a happy Sunday.